Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Willie DC, the man with too many games and not enough time on his hands. So we're back with another demo impressions video, and we are going to be talking about the First Berserker Khazan, which releases on March 27, 2025. It is our latest hardcore, as it says on the screen when you download the demo, hardcore action adventure game, but we know exactly what this is when you see it in motion. It's pretty much practically a Souls-like game, and I think this game does a lot of things right. Now, this is coming from someone who doesn't necessarily sit down with a lot of Souls games, despite the fact that he does have Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. I have Bloodborne, and I also have Elden Ring, even though I haven't necessarily played those games like that. And the closest I've gotten to like a Souls-like, truthfully, is like playing Neo, and I played Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin. I have to say, for this game here, I love the art style of the characters. I really do. I love Khazan's design. I think that he is like just really cool to look at, simply that he's almost like this war-torn, battle-scarred general. You know, a disgraced general at that. If you go ahead and follow like what story it gives you, there's definitely going to be a bit of emphasis on story, since there's a lot of things to pick up. And I know other Souls games do that as well, but I think the story in this game will have a lot more emphasis, especially being within like the dungeon fighter or DNF universe. It's going to have a lot more implication within the game. So here's hoping that they continue to add, well, there is going to be a lot more for you to pick up along the way, because you don't get super far in this game. You get like maybe the first like 2 chapters at best, or maybe the first chapter and a half, before it ends up letting you go back to the title screen and so on. But yeah, I think this game has solid aesthetics, solid art style, and for the gameplay itself, this is where I think this game can succeed. And for me, I can really truthfully compare this game to Stranger of Paradise a lot, because it feels very much like Stranger of Paradise to me, as I have played and beat that game on stream. I have to say that with the weapons and the armor, because there is a weight system here, so you can get over encumbered if you equip too much or put on too much heavy stuff, and you have to update your skills just like you would in a Souls game, where you stop at the thing and you add your points in, you go from there, and it gets more expensive along the way. It works like that, and just like when you stop at the sword or stop at like the crevice, that's what it's called. It's called the crevice. If you stop at the crevice, everything respawns back into place. So even if you've killed off something, you will find yourself having to go back and refight it. Hell, even events replay sometimes, because I noticed that when I was in a certain area, I ran through there, a guy got scared, and he came out of a cave. But when I went back and put my points in, came back around that corner again, he came back out the cave again. It's tiny little nitpicky stuff, but I'm not going to knock the game for that. I think the combat in and of itself is smooth. I think that it has a nice blocking system. It has like it's called like a brusque guard. I think it's called brusque or brisk guard, and then there's a dodge as well that's mapped to X. I thought it would have been on something else, but it's not. And it even has an exhaustion system for both the enemies and you. If you get hit with at the end of your stamina meter, you're exhausted. I think that's an interesting thing. I hadn't seen that per se in any other Souls game. Like I said, I'm not a big one on those types of games, but I've seen it, and I've seen it here, and it's an interesting mechanic, because I guess it kind of evens the playing field for both you and the enemies in a way, because if you run out of stamina and they smack you, you're stuck trying to regain stamina, like you're stunned, just like it does for them. Like when they're exhausted and you beat them out of their stamina, you can hit them with a brutal strike and they'll end up doing a ton of damage to them. So you're only doing like that much. And then the weapon selection so far is only with the dual wield, which is like a sword and an axe, and then there's a great sword, and then there's a spear that you can get along the way. And I really have to say that they feel good to play with. They're not too hard. The great sword, for me, even though I am a big fan of great swords in certain games, felt a little slow, so the dual wield did a lot for me. And I think the spear is pretty fun to use too. There's also using javelins, which the character has. It's almost like a form of magic for him, and it's like a form of magic for him to use to be able to hit things at long range. It's a little finicky on the aiming if you take time out with it to get it though, but it does pretty good damage as well if you want to take out enemies at a range and they don't see you. Oh my god, does it work wonders. Movement and everything in the game also works out really well. I can't get enough of it, and like I said, I'm super hyped and I have a lot of faith in this game. I'm praying that it does well. I don't see it having a bad time, and I think it's in a solid place for it to release, because I've said this numerous times before and I'm gonna keep saying it again. These first 3 months of the year are looking exactly like last year, where there were so many games dropping left and right within like the first 3 months, within like the first 90 days of the year. And all these games were next to each other, bunched up, piled in, walking at the door one by one, walking out the door 3 at a time. It's in an alright spot so far from what I can tell, with it being the end of March where it comes out. So there isn't much more I can truly say about it, but I do think the boss fights in this game are something, to say the least. And that's not knocking them. Like I said, I'm not the big Souls guy. I got a friend of mine who's on the podcast with me. He's a Souls guy. He likes it. I gotta say, that Blade Phantom fight is insane to me, because I spent a chunk of time on that. I have like 3 hours of footage, and a good chunk of my footage is me fighting him. Like traversing and going through like certain areas and getting to where I gotta go. And there is another boss before that, but I figured that out. Blade Phantom, on the other hand, was a trip and a half. I have never in my life sat down with a boss as long as I did with that one. I sat down with bosses for like a long time in plenty of RPGs and action games and things of that sort. But this one here, Blade Phantom, he's a monster. He is a monster and a half. And he's practically almost like a carbon copy of you to an extent. He has all the use of multiple weapons, multiple moves, and you know, he has that Souls-like tendencies to him. He has a way to hurt you in the worst ways possible, has a way to drain your stamina off. And it took me a while before I even beat him. But when I did, you have no idea the sigh of relief I breathed. I almost wanted to scream. And that was at like that might have been like at the darkest part of like night. I didn't want to wake anyone up. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention while I'm here, excuse me, OST. There's quite a bit of it there. Well, not quite a bit. There's a little bit of it there. You know, the ambiance of being on that snowy mountain. It feels like treacherous passing. It feels like you're being hunted, like you're being watched, like your every move is being watched and people are looking for you. But in the boss fights, not necessarily in the first one, the Yatuga, but in that Blade Phantom fight, that song is very much fitting, very epic, and it's a signifier of a fight that's ready to just go on for forever and a day if you couldn't find a way to like beat this dude. You have to really conquer this man before you can even end the demo. Like I said, y'all, 3 hours of footage, and I'm pretty sure a good hour and some change of it was on him. And for voice acting, I think the voice acting in this game is quite phenomenal. And once again, shout outs to Ben Starr, because he has another role in another major video game. This will be his 3rd, maybe even his 4th one. Don't quote me on that, because I know he's in Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and he's the lead character in the First Berserker Khazan. He is Khazan. And I promise you, as many times as he said things, grunted, swung a weapon, all I could hear was Clive. There's nothing against him. But at the same time, I'm just like, that's Clive, bro. That's Clive. This is like another character that's very kind of sort of close to Clive, but not extremely. I have to just say that I love what this game has going for it. I am going to buy it. God willing, I have the paper to do so when it comes out. I think this game is gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be great if you are a Souls fan, if you are into a more anime-esque sort of game, if you are into Souls games in general. I say come pick this up. I don't think the game is cumbersome in any way. I think the game very much plays smoothly. It's gonna have a lot of things going for it, and if you're looking for a bit more story in Souls games where they kind of focus like a bit more on certain things, especially since your character has a lot going on within him, this would be the game for you. So I hope Khazan does well. Like I said, I got faith in it. I really want it to do well. I'm wishing for its greatness. And I'm also going to leave you with more than likely my final attempt at the Blade Phantom so you can see what I did. Like I said, I am not the greatest Souls-like player, but I don't back down from a challenge. I ain't no bitch. So I'm going to let y'all see that. I'll leave y'all with that, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.
I will have no masters. You need my body, but I need your strength. We don't need to be enemies. I swear on my honor, with my blood. We can work together, cooperate. You help me, I help you.
Bargain, is it? Very well. This is what is required. We conquer. No! Enough!
and help me, and I will help you do this.